right, welcome back to another mini lesson. All right, today we are continuing our economic basics, okay? And we are looking at market and prices. I am not going to lie to you. This lesson is a little bit on the difficult side, so bear with me. I'm going to do the best I can to explain it. And I think by the end, we'll both work together to get this material. All right, so objectives. As always, starting off with the objectives. Today, you're going to be able to explain the interaction of markets and prices. Okay, so we have a market. If you were to go to the grocery store and they're selling all these different products, right? How do they decide? How does the grocery store decide what the price of certain products will be? So how do they decide what the price of an apple will be? All right. And then you should be able to describe market prices, relative prices, and equilibrium prices. Sorry, kind of hard to say. By the end of this mini lesson. So we're going to be going through this. Like I said, a little bit more difficult, so bear with me, stay with me, and we're going to get through this. All right, so supply and demand, as we have talked about, okay? I know you've heard it numerous times, okay? What is supply? Okay, supply describes the total amount of a specific good or service that is available to consumers, right? So we have, it's just like I always go back to, like a mouse, right? How many, our supply is how many mice, I guess, do you have in your supply, or how many iPhones do we have, or how many wallets do we have, right? That's our supply. So we have our supply, and then we have our demand, referring to a customer's desire and willingness to pay a price for the specific good or service. So how much are people willing to spend to buy an iPhone, right? How much are people willing to spend on a mouse for their computer, right? Or how much are people willing to spend on glasses, right? So that's the demand. If you're thinking about anything really about how anything that you really want or what people want to buy is a demand, right? Oops. So that's the demand. Supply is how many we have, okay, what types of goods, how many of the goods do we have? Demand is who wants to buy it, okay, who's willing to purchase this wallet, right? So supply and demand are going to work together. And if we have a ton of iPhones, right, if supply increases, we have a ton of iPhones, right, then the prices usually will decrease, right? So if we have a million iPhones, the prices are going to come down, right? Because we have a lot of them, right? I mean, if we have 100,000, if we have a billion iPhones, right? Not everyone's going to buy an iPhone. So we have too many iPhones, and we're going to have to lower the price in order for people to buy this iPhone, right? If the supply of iPhones go down, so if we don't have many, they come out with the iPhone X Plus. I don't know if they're coming out with a new phone, but let's say they do, right? So the X Plus comes out, and they only made, 10,000 of them, right? So there's not a lot of iPhones, but people are going to want it. Then the price is going to go up, right? So the price is going to go up because there's not a lot of them, and Apple can do that. Apple can get away with increasing the price because the demand will be high, right? So if the supply goes up, right, goes down, the price is going to increase, okay? And vice versa. If the supply goes up, if we have a ton of wallets, right, we just have a ton of wallets, right, the price is going to decrease. They want to get rid of them, right? Think of it that way. So if we have a ton of wallets or a ton of iPhones, right, they want to get rid of them. They don't want to have them, so they're going to have to lower the price, right? So if this is listed at $200, okay, I'm not going to spend $200. So they're going to sit on the shelves. They're going to make more and more and more, and they have a ton of supply of these wallets. They're going to say, all right, let's lower the price so that people buy this wallet. All right. So here's a graph, okay? This is what we call a negative relationship here, all right? If you look here, we have a graph, a supply and demand graph, and we have at $3, right? The price, if the price per slice for Haley, this is an example right from your book. So we have Haley is a college student, has to buy her books, has to pay for college, doesn't have a lot of money, is looking to get the cheapest pizza that she can get, right? So, oops, sorry. So at $3 a slice, Haley's like, no way am I buying that, right? No way am I going to buy a piece of pizza for $3. Okay, too much in my book. All right, and then if you look here, when the price goes down a little bit to $2, right? So this is the price, and this is the number of slices. So if the price goes down to $2 right here, she says, okay, the price goes down, I'll buy one slice. All right. The price is, that's a reasonable price for me. I can buy one slice. And then with one, if the price goes down to $1 per slice, she's like, I'll buy two. Okay, I can afford $2. And then with if the price is at zero, she's like, I'll take 3 slices. No problem. All right. So we can see here that as the price goes up, okay, as the price goes up, Haley's less likely to buy. Okay, so her demand goes down, right? So as the prices go up, the demand's going to diminish, right? As the prices go down, demand's going to go higher. Because if you think about it, it makes sense, right? If the price of my iPhone is super expensive, right? I'm not going to buy it, right? So, but as the price comes down, the demand is going to go up, right? So that's kind of the relationship there. Here's another chart, okay? This is a supply and demand chart, right? And we can see that on this chart, again, as the prices decrease, okay, so here's the price, right? So at $3, Bethany says, I'm not buying any slices, right? So at $3, oops, sorry. At $3, she says, I'm not buying any slices, okay? But as the prices drop, so maybe it goes down to $2.75, she's like, I'll buy one. When it goes down to maybe $2.50, she says, I'll buy two, right? And as the prices drop, she's more likely to buy the pizza, right? So at $3, not buying any slices, right? But as the price goes down, she's more likely to buy pizza slices. So by the time it gets to $1, she's like, I'll buy 8 slices, right? I can buy 8 at $1, but I can't buy 8 at $3, $24 to buy a whole pizza. No way. So that's another supply and demand chart, right? So as the prices decrease, the demand's going to go up, right? So we see prices going down, demand's going to go up. Supply, all right, and demand. What is a surplus? A surplus is when there's just too much good for demand, okay? So we just have, like the example, we make, 2 billion wallets, right? And there's just not enough people to buy these wallets, right? We just have too many wallets. That's a surplus, okay? We just have too many of something, okay? So like the picture I have on here is just a bunch of cars, right? So we just have a surplus of cars that people don't want to buy or can't afford, so we have a surplus. We have too many for demand. All right, and then a shortage, there's not enough supply to meet the demand of customers. Okay, so we have I've used this example before. When I was in middle school, I really wanted an Xbox 360, and they had just come out, and they didn't make enough. There just wasn't enough of the Xboxes to meet the demand of the customers. So there just wasn't enough supply, and the demand was so high that whenever there was supply, they would just disappear. So kind of like this slice of pizza, right? There's just not enough pizza to meet the demand of all these different hands, right? So many people want one slice, okay? There's just not enough. All right, moving on. So we have what we call the equilibrium price right here, okay? This is the place where the supply and demand meet, okay? So we have right here, see where these two lines meet? So our blue line is our demand and our orange line is our supply, right? Where the demand and supply meet is the equilibrium price, all right? So businesses are always seeking the equilibrium price. They always want to have the price right in the middle where the supply meets the demand, right? This is a good price, okay? This is where people are going to be willing to spend their money, right? But they're also able to make a profit off of it. So like this is Rami's famous pizza supply and demand. So they figure at $2 per slice, right? About $2, maybe a little less. All right, they'll be able to sell 30 slices. Okay, that's the price that they think. So about $2, they'll be able to sell the most amount of slices. Okay, this is where the supply, okay, will meet the demand. Okay, so they're, like I said, businesses are always seeking the equilibrium price. They always want to have that price where they can, because at the equilibrium price, it helps to prevent surplus, okay, having too much, and it also helps prevent shortages, and it helps provide the right amount, right, the right amount of supply at the right price, okay? So that's the equilibrium price, the point where demand, okay, the spot where demand meets supply. Okay, this is what businesses are always going for. All right, so we have relative price. What is relative price? That's a fantastic question. Okay, relative price is the price of something compared to all available alternatives and substitutions. Okay, so if we have an iPhone, right, and we look and we say, okay, we just created a brand new iPhone, the relative price will be like, okay, we think that we should sell this for whatever, $599. Okay, the relative price, they're going to look and say, okay, what are the other phones? Okay, what are the other products that are comparable, okay, to iPhones? So they might look at Samsung or LG or something like that to see the different types of phones and how much they're going for. All right, and then they'll set their price. So, okay, Samsung sells their newest phone for, $579.99. It's possible that we, as Apple, a lot of people really like Apple iPhones. We can sell this for $20 more and still sell a lot of our phones. All right. Another example that I have is a local carpenter. Okay, someone who builds something. With high ratings, so maybe he got a really good, I don't know, Yelp or whatever, if that's just restaurants, but like a Yelp review, or someone gave him 5 stars, right? So someone gave him or her 5 stars. They have a really high rating, really great recommendations. Use this person; they do a fantastic job. Okay, and then they look around and this person with these great ratings looks around and says, well, there's this other carpenter down the street and they have not great ratings, okay? They have some complaints that they didn't do the job right. So the carpenter with the great, reviews is going to charge a little bit more because he or she knows that, all right, I have great reviews, I have a great reputation, people know that I'm going to do a good job, whereas compared to another carpenter, doesn't have great reviews. So this is relative price, comparing other goods or services to each other. Okay, so relative price. They're always looking around to see what the prices are of other goods or services. Market price. It's very similar to the equilibrium price. It's the spot where they meet. Okay, is the market price definition is the price of an asset or product as determined by supply and demand. So very close to equilibrium price, like we talked about, right? But market price is not always the same as equilibrium price, because sometimes market prices will reflect the relative price of competitors rather than the equilibrium price. So the market price, a majority of the time, is going to be very close to the equilibrium price, so where the supply and the demand meet. So right here, right, the demand and the supply, right? So this spot is the equilibrium price, like we talked about earlier. But sometimes the markets will look around and say, we think that this price is a little bit too low. We're going to bump it up a little bit, right? So they can bump it up. Okay, sometimes the market prices are going to reflect relative price of competitors rather than just the equilibrium price. So remember that. Market price is almost always the equilibrium price where supply meets demand. Okay, so right here. But some businesses will look at competitors, like I said, like maybe Apple looks at Samsung and says, well, Samsung's selling their phone for, $20 more than we are, and they're getting a ton of sales, so let's bump up our price, okay? So they use the relative price of competitors rather than just the equilibrium price. All right? And the last thing, why are markets so important? Why are markets really, really important to us as consumers? Okay. Well, here's why. Markets keep producers from increasing prices because it decreases the quantity of products that will be sold. Okay. So really what happens is markets, different types of, so if we go back to the phone example, right? So we have Apple, we have Samsung, we have LG, we have all different types of companies, right? So that's a market, right? So they're all selling their cell phones, right? And they want people to buy them. So it keeps them, by them battling out for our business, right? Apple can't say, well, we're going to charge $1,000 for this phone. You don't have a choice. You're going to buy our product, right? Whereas since there's Samsung, there's LG, who can say, okay, that's fine, Apple. You want to charge $1,000 for your phone? We're going to sell ours for $600, $400 less. Which one are people more likely to buy? They're going to more likely to buy the Samsung because it's $400 cheaper, right? And it's going to decrease the quantity of products that will be sold, okay? So it's going to lower the amount of products that will be sold, all right? So markets are huge because it keeps producers from increasing the prices, okay? Because, so like I said, if Apple were to sell this for $1,000 and there's no other markets, there's no Samsung, there's no LG, they can just boost their prices up, right? So with new markets coming in, like Samsung, it creates competition between Apple, Samsung, LG. So they have to keep their prices lower, or else they're not going to sell their products. Basically, is what that's saying. All right, here's just an activity that I really want you to make sure you're doing, because it's going to, like I said, this is kind of a tougher lesson. So I want you to make sure that you're doing the 3-column chart, which can be downloaded on your Connexus lesson, and just go through the different definitions, okay? So make sure you're going through and defining what is market prices, what is relative prices, and equilibrium prices. And just make sure that you're just following the instructions on Connexus, okay? It's on page 4, and just make sure you complete this assignment. And that's all I have for you today. I hope that you enjoyed this mini lesson. I know a lot of information was thrown at you. I know as I was going through, it was a little bit tricky for me as well. But just work through it. I think that you should be prepared for your quick check coming up. And if you want to, go back, rewatch it, look at my slides. I think that'll definitely help you out. So as always, exit ticket, please complete it. If you complete 5 throughout the semester, I will give you a 100 on a quiz. That's all I have for you today. Mr. Doherty, out.